Okay, on behalf of myself and the rest of the Bordertown crew, we welcome you to the 2025 Bordertown Paracon. This is our 7th year and we're super excited. We have lots going on today, really quick. If you want to, you can go to the front. If you haven't got it already, we have souvenir booklets available, and inside you're going to find everything you need for the day. You're going to find the schedule, and the schedules are also printed up and put on the doors if you want to check in and see what things you want to be a part of today. Also inside is a who's who, a list of all of our speakers, our presenters, our moderators. We actually have about 35 speakers coming in today from all over Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Missouri, and Arkansas. We're super excited. Also getting ready to start in the green room is Brian Terrell's workshop. He is doing a workshop with the Red Dirt Cryptids on Bigfoot hunting. If you are interested in doing that, we will have the doors open for a little while longer. You can get your tickets at the front desk. They're $10 each, and they have a swiper, so if you have a card, you can totally do that. Also available out in the front hall, Can Donuts and Coffee is here today, so we'll get you something tasty to eat and drink. At lunchtime, we have Coyote Tacos out front. They'll be opening up at 11, so go out there and get yourself some tacos. They'll be here all day. And also, we will have concessions running this afternoon out here in the main hall. We've got sodas and water and treats and candy and popcorn and all sorts of goodies. There's also a few little things for sale out there that you can check out. We also, inside the little booklet, you'll find that we have actually 12 podcasts represented today. And they love taking your personal stories. So walk around the vendor tables and stuff and find your podcasters and check them out. We've also got 2 guys in a PA running our sound today. Thank you, Mike. Make sure to check out all the raffles. We have so many this year. We're super excited. The tickets are 1 for 1 or 6 for 5, and you can get that with the lady here by the door. If you want to win one, you have to be here at 7:30 when we pull it. If you're not here, sorry, womp womp. So make sure you're at least back by the end of the day. My welcome. Also, make sure to check out all the vendors and the team tables and all the authors that are in today. Get your book signed. And I think that's it on that. So are we all ready to start? All right, well, welcome to the Bordertown Paracon. So first of all, we're going to start off with the ghost panel of the day. Let me pull up my information on that. So this next panel is going to be near-death experiences, crossing over, and the afterlife with special guest moderator Ken Rahmoeller of St. Louis, Missouri. Ken is a paranormal investigator. Ken is a paranormal investigator and founding member of Monster Paranormal of Missouri. He is also a co-host on the Amok Paranormal podcast and can be seen on Missouri Botanical Garden Spirits in the Garden on YouTube. So thank you, Ken. I need on the panel Heather Woodward, author and VS Alien podcast. I need Jason Walker, author, Night Terror Collective. Okay. I need Shaw Wooten, who forgot to sign in, Amok Podcast, Paranormal's Perspective Podcast. I need Tina Scout, River Valley Paranormal. Doc McLumpy, Tulsa's Ghost Paranormal. Here. Christy Campbell, Psychic Medium, Para Investigator. Clinton Hancock, Oklahoma Paranormal Information Syndicate. Chris Harrington, Oklahoma Paranormal Information Syndicate, excuse me. Debbie Thorson, Dale Echoes Paranormal. Robert Prado, author, Monsters the Podcast. And Jason Roberts, Road Trip Paranormal, Kansas Bigfoot Research Society, and Cryptid Heartland Podcast. All right, I'm going to hand this off to Ken.
Can I go to the cryptid one or the what's that? No. Go see the Bigfoot guys. Anyway, hey everybody. Holy cow, look at this. This is awesome. Thank you all for being here again. My name's Ken, paranormal researcher. So I call myself a parahistorian. But today we plan to go into a deep dive into the topics of end life end-of-life stages. However, after doing some research, a lot of research last couple of years, and reflecting the past couple of weeks, past about a month or so, I'm like, oh my God, this is a huge topic. So, what I plan on doing is talking basically about only two of the topics. The topics are listed up here. You got near death, clinical death, transitional crossings, and then life after life. However, the first two are really close together, including the topic of resuscitation. So we're going to start here. And that's my first picture, just saying we're going to be talking about just two parts of it. But let me explain what I'm going to do first, guys, is I'm going to give you some definitions. You're not going to be able to see the thing up here, but I think hopefully I'll read what's up there for you. And then I got about 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of just some general information so we're all on the same page, at least from, I guess, from my perspective and from science. But my research, it's derived from various studies outlined in this book right here. It's called The Big Book of Near-Death Experiences. It's compiled by PM H. Atwater, and she just went through thousands of different cases in this particular book. So well-known researchers that added to this, Bruce Grayson, Raymond Moody, Kenneth Ring, and a lot of other people. Additionally, I have interviewed 2 NDE experiencers in my life in the past 20 years or so. And I've also realized through going through the various IANS meetings that I occasionally attend that I actually had an NDE when I was about 14 years old. And we'll kind of talk about that as we go through the next few hours, right? We're going to be here for like 3-4 hours. Is that correct? No. Okay. Okay, I made that up. So, near-death experience, what is it? Well, it's an altered state of consciousness reported by people on the brink of death. They are personal experiences which typically occur during life-threatening emergencies, critical illnesses, trauma, ceasing of brain activity, deep general anesthesia, and oftentimes through cardiac arrest. Figure this out here, get my hands right, I'm right-handed. Okay, so some of the experiences that can happen, positive experiences include many things that are, well, all of these items that are listed up here, but they've identified, research has identified various degrees of experiences ranging from mild to extreme. Some of the most common positive experiences include out-of-body experiences, life reviews, feelings of peace, meeting sometimes key individuals, whether they're an ancestor or some god or angels or spirits or anything like that. There's a lot of discussions about lights, tunnels, and knowledge beyond your wildest imagination. Those are the positive aspects. There are negative aspects, though, too. Experiences can include, some are overlapping, out-of-body sensations, a life review. However, this is where they start to differ. Endless falling, dark tunnels, feelings of terror, meeting demons, and sometimes even visiting hell. So those are some of the negative experiences that have been noted in a lot of this research. They're not as prominent as the positive side, but these do happen. What about the after effects? Positive after effects. Well, the majority are positive and they may cause changes and improvements in personal values. A decreased fear of death, spiritual awakening, a lot of times, and many claim that there are enhancements in their intuition and psychic abilities. So those are the positive effects. The negative effects. This would include severe trauma, especially from a negative experience, which I just mentioned a minute ago. But even those who have positive experiences this can affect them, an NDE can affect them with anger, depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies. And most of this is because that brief euphoric feeling is now gone and they can't get it back. So those are some of the negative effects, after effects. Some of the scientific explanations. Sudden changes of brain functionality could cause these. Could be caused by hallucinogenic drugs, oxygen deprivation, just a misfiring of neurotransmitters in the brain, or simply the patient just wanting to be really, really cool, and they make up stuff. The pretenders, though, are usually discovered during the in-depth interview process, and those folks were weeded out. But some pretenders want acknowledgement; they want to be known. Some of the spiritual interpretations. From that perspective, there's a high percentage of experiencers, they recognize or they feel like they recognize the existence of a soul. They also acknowledge that consciousness can function without an active brain and body, which in turn enhances their belief in an afterlife. They also realize that Earth is not home, and again, they are spiritually awakened. Those are some of the spiritual interpretations. Again, the previous slides were there to give you guys a better basis of where I'm kind of coming from the NDE, resuscitation, clinical death perspective. Some of the definitions, and this is also for you guys out here, so you kind of know where I'm kind of headed on these things. And in this discussion today, I'm going to presume that, again, these two, along with clinical death, are all in the same genre of what I call NDEs, or what's considered an NDEs. So, you guys ready to get started? All right, the first question is going to be simple, and it's going to be for everybody. Kind of if you can, at least at this point, a raising of hands. How many of you, everywhere here, think that they have had an NDE, near-death experience, or know somebody they think did? Just raise your hands. So almost everybody up there at the panel, and I'd say about a third of the audience. A lot of people don't realize that, but many, many, many folks have had some type of an experience. I didn't realize that I had one until about 2 years ago. So let's continue on here, though. I'll get into that here in a short while. Matter of fact, on this one. So let's dive into the weeds a little bit and address what we may have or think we have experienced. So I'll begin this part of the conversation, or panel discussion. My NDE, I discovered, was a near drowning. It had happened when I was 14 years old. It was in Colorado Springs on a family vacation. And I was in the pool with my sisters. They couldn't swim. They grabbed my arms and I went underwater. And all I can say is that I was almost out of breath. I do remember that part. More details, I'll give you those in a few minutes. So that was a little teaser right there. So can some of you guys, first off, you want to introduce you? Well, I think she already introduced you, right? Whoever's had an experience up there or has a comment, can you tell us a little about your experience?
Okay, go first. I'm Christy, I'm a psychic medium and energy healer. So when I was 7 years old, I had an appendicitis, and so my appendix was about to rupture. This was in the 80s, and so when that happened, I got rushed to the hospital, and I got given anesthesia, and unfortunately, I passed away. My heart stopped. I felt myself leave my body, and I saw this beautiful bridge and this woman who looked like me but not like me. And she had her arms open and said, "Come on, darling, come on, let's go." And then a man stepped out and said, "Not her time yet." And I was very, very sad. And so he told me that I had more to do with this life, and that there was a lot of things happening at the time that I wanted to escape from. But I had to go back and face things head on and be brave. So I came back, and funnily enough, I got to see things as I came back. I saw my grandparents coming in from Mexico, hungover as heck. And so they were kind of stressed out. My mom and her boyfriend were fighting. And so I saw these things, and when I brought them up to my family, they were really shocked because the doctor kept saying, no, she didn't die. Well, then I said, but why did you put this little sticky things on me? And they have little heart monitors. And they said, no. And then my mom checked, and yeah, they were there. Well, she only died for a minute, they said. So that's my experience.
Only for a minute.
Probably didn't take long either. Were you gone for a while?
It was like a minute and 20 seconds. That's all.
Anybody else want to join in? Do you feel comfortable doing it?
Well, okay. So you're talking about your death experiences, like a lot of people, like she was dead on the table for a minute and 20 seconds.
NDE doesn't have to be death, remember?
Okay. Well, when I was 16 years old, I was a bad girl, and I'd been drinking, and I was trying to beg my mom not to let me come home. I was tired. Of course, I wasn't going to tell her mom. But she told me that if I didn't come home, then I wouldn't be able to go to spring break. And oh my God, back then, spring break was a thing. So I drove home and ended up going between a telephone pole and a metal detector and off of a cement culvert and landed on a tree root. There was a big, huge tree right in front of me, and the only thing I woke up with was a bruise on my collarbone. I should have went through that windshield. I should have died because I was going at least 60, 70 miles an hour down the back road. But I didn't, so I chalk it up to somebody protecting me and putting their arms over me, because if it wasn't for the man upstairs, I probably wouldn't be here today on a lot of reasons. But would that be considered a death?
That's an NDE. Yeah, because just a description of it and the definition, you're saying that you should have died.
Yeah.
But something, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, actually helped you out of the situation.
My dad's a cop, and whenever he went to the scene to look at it, after all was said and done, he found out what happened. He said, yeah, you should have, there's no way, because between the metal detector and the telephone pole, there was only a big enough gap for my car to go through. And me ended up going over the cement culvert and landing on that tree root. And he said, you should have been gone. You're so lucky.
Okay. And that, again, that's what I classify as an NDE. Go ahead.
My name is Heather. I'm a podcaster. And I write books. But anyway, I do a lot of things. So I've had a similar experience as you, where I don't know if it was an NDE or not, but when I was 23, I had a miscarriage and I had to go to the hospital. And like, I walk in and the whole team of doctors and nurses ran towards me, and I'm like, oh crap, this is bad. And I guess I was like near death. And I remember when they were hooking me up to stuff, I remember hearing a voice in my head as I passed out that said, do you want to go? Like, this isn't a fixed point. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm done yet. And I just heard, okay. And then I woke up and my mom said that I was asking for a cheeseburger. But, but it was kind of a weird experience because I remember distinctly that voice asking me if I wanted to leave.
Okay.
So.
And I guess it takes a lot of energy, so I guess it would be, that wasn't one of the after effects, but being hungry, that's a good one though. But that definitely is an NDE.
I guess specifically I asked for in and out. Like I had it like down to a T, and my mom laughed at me because I'm in this room and I'm hooked up to all these things, and I had emergency surgery. And then when I woke up, that's all I said was, "Can you give me in and out?" And my mom was like, "What the hell?" You almost died.
Like I said, all of these experiences that have been documented, thousands and thousands of cases over the centuries, really, or hundreds of years, everything is personal. It's a personal experience. So that's why we're kind of here today, and we're just talking about what did you guys experience? Anybody else? Oh, go ahead.
I'm Daryl. I was about 18, running with the wrong crowd, and was doing things I shouldn't have done. Someone didn't like me, and I took a shotgun blast to the face. Sort of.
Nope.
When I woke up in the dumpster, I was covered with blood. And wiped my face and just held it fell off. I had to have one dug out. People who had witnessed it thought I was dead. And anyway. From that experience, I went into law enforcement. And I'm here today.
Yay.
That's pretty intense. So glad you're here with us today, and thanks for sharing that one. Anybody else?
I'm Chris Harrington. I also am a drowning victim when I was 4 years old at a golf course. And I do remember going under, everything going black, and then surrounding almost like fireworks coming off, coming open. And then next thing you know, I'd being jerked out of it and being brought back.
I'm sorry, Chris, did you say that it was an accident or?
I went into a pond after a golf ball.
Oh, okay, so when you're drowning.
Adults not paying attention to me drinking.
Thanks for sharing. Anybody else?
My name's Corey Incock, and I'm a paranormal investigator. When I was 5, I really don't like sharing information about this. I had a breakthrough when I was 5, and when I was in the hospital, I also got meningitis, which is not something on the brain. So, anyways, I don't remember all the details very well, which is great, but I was in the hospital for quite a while. And my mom could probably tell you more than I could, but I ended up dying for a while. And the only thing I really remember about it is like having a dream. Like people, well, I guess my idea of what heaven was, I guess that's what my dream was. They said it wasn't my time yet, so that's all I remember. But that was my experience.
Thanks for sharing that. Like I said, everybody has personal experiences. Some are more traumatic, some are just, they still bother you today, and I understand that. Luckily, mine was, not extremely traumatic, but it could have been worse. So, anybody else?
Yeah, I had one whenever I was about 14 or 15. I was fishing with some friends around a pond and decided I was going to come back around the pond and join up with them. And there was kind of a gap where I thought it was only maybe about 3 foot deep, and I was just going to jump into that, wade across. Turns out it was about 10 foot deep, and I sank down into the reeds and tried to fight it, and I thought I was going to drown, and got pretty weak, and guess decided that at that point I was just going to give up, and uh, everything kind of went white, and I don't know if it was my own voice or another voice that said, "Just relax, I got you," and made my way to the edge and just dug in and pulled myself up. And could I say that I actually died? No, but something beyond just myself took over.
Gave you enough strength to pull yourself back up.
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard a lot of those stories too, and that's kind of part of mine as well. Anybody else? Okay.
It's been a while back, but I had to go in for surgery. And don't really remember a lot of the details, but I do remember after the surgery, the doctor coming in, and then you died on my table. But you were only gone for a minute. The famous, you were only gone for a minute. But they had to shove the tube down my throat because my heart stopped. So, like I said, it's been a while, and I just don't even think about it.
Kind of pushed it to the background, don't remember much about it, kind of locked it, locked it away somewhere.
Yeah, when we first got home, it was interesting trying to go to sleep because every time I closed my eyes, I was like, I'm going to die. So, yeah, it messes with your head. It really does.
Okay. Anybody else, or should we move on? Okay. Well, thank you all for sharing that with the audience. Question here is, did you encounter any of the scenarios identified in the outline? Some of you have already kind of mentioned that, but I'll tell you about mine here real quick, or part of it. Although I knew I was going to be out of air pretty quickly, I don't know how long I was underwater, but I remained relatively calm. I looked up at the surface of the pool, which was only like 2 feet above me, but I couldn't reach it because I couldn't reach at all because my 2 sisters couldn't swim. They were holding on in the deep water area. They were holding on to that divider rope. Rope came loose and they lost access to it. So what they do, I was the closest thing. They each grabbed one of my arms. I went under it, and their franticness held me underwater. I have no idea how long. All I know is whatever length of time you can hold your breath, I was almost to the end of that time frame. I do know that. But when I looked up, I could see the sun looking through the pool, shining through the pool, because it was like probably midday. And I could see it, just a calm section right above me in the pool water. But my 2 sisters, I know they were frantically, waving their arms and trying to get help from the side, from my dad, and whoever else was at the pool. But I couldn't get free. So I will finish that story on the next question. Cliffhangers here, guys, cliffhangers. But anyway, so what about positive and negative experiences during your experience? Anybody want to expound on what they felt or saw or anything?
I'll start again because why not? So I felt nothing but calm when I was going through this. There's no fear of dying. Again, I was 7 years old, so I was a child, and I was kind of motivated to go home. My father had left, my mother and I was going through 7-year-old's difficulty of trauma, but it never felt scary. It felt very peaceful. The grass on the other side of the bridge was very green. It was like the brightest emerald I'd ever seen. I'm apparently blind. I could see, like I was able to see like a 20/20 vision, which was very interesting for me. It was very perspective. It was very peaceful. I think my only emotion that I had truly was annoyance that I didn't get to go, and that somebody else told me I couldn't. I'm a tourist, and I don't like being told no. So it was not fun.
On mine, I was in a dark place in my life, and it was just dark that someone said, "You're not done yet." And like I said, when I woke up, I had shotgun pellets all on my face. Only one had penetrated, but I was covered in blood. So, like I said, I'm not sure, I didn't see much more than that. But it was calm, like I said, I woke up and had got my body in the dark.
Just that alone would be pretty scary. But you say you stayed pretty calm?
Yeah, like I said, for, like I said, to be covered in blood like I was, and only had one pellet penetrate, there was no way that much blood came out of one little spot. So, it was definitely interesting, to say the least.
Okay. All right, well, thanks again for sharing. Anybody else want to throw anything out there?
Don't drink and drive. I don't remember anything.
Okay.
Don't drink and drive. I can tell you one thing though, out of that experience, I never drink and drive again. Ever. So.
So there was after.
Oh yeah.
There was definitely an after effect.
Well, to see that I only came out with a bruise and not any broken bones or gone through the windshield, it was, I mean, at the time I was 16 years old, but looking back on it, it's like, wow, yeah, I really should have died. But when you're that age, you just don't really fear anything. You think you're invincible.
Yeah, invincible.
Right? But you're not.
Okay.
So this is kind of an interesting one, and I don't mean to scare anybody, but this is something that I've heard of, and clients of mine have talked about this. And I have experienced it, but not in a near-death way. I do a lot of mediumship work, and sometimes I go into trance and stuff, and I have experienced this, but not, again, in a near-death way. But I went to a conference 2 years ago, and it was remote viewing. And the lady who did remote viewing class was talking about near-death experiences, and she was saying, don't go to the light. And I was like, what? What do you mean, don't go to the light? And she's like, she had this whole presentation about how people who she's talked to that had near-death experiences, they go through the tunnel to the light, and they drop into this place where there are empty souls. And I guess this is a really common experience that people don't talk about. And she said there was faces there, and they were just like stuck there. And it was like the equivalent of a rat cage for souls. Like there are people that have this experience where they get stuck there, and then they get pulled back out of it. And it scared me a little bit because one time I was going through some strangely alien abduction stuff. And I did a meditation and I fell asleep. And I had an experience where I went down somewhere where there was a bunch of lost souls and they had open mouths. You know that painting, The Scream? It was like that. There was a bunch of those. And I was like, where the heck am I? Where the heck am I? Because I had never experienced it, and they were screaming. And I pulled myself out of it, and I woke up. And I never talked about it because I was like, what is that? And then, 10 years later, this lady's talking about it, but she said that was a very common experience with her remote viewing people, or the remote viewing people that had near-death experiences. And so I don't know if that's something is that like a negative aspect of it or something, or?
Based on what I've been reading and going to these IANS meetings for a couple of years, and I'm not there every month, but one of the questions that just hit me, so we'll go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but do you guys think that, and actually I do bring it up later, but do you think that the influence of things we hear while we're still breathing and before an event happens, do you think that what we learn or what we think or what we hear definitely influences what happens to, let's say, you or me or whatever during an experience? Do you think, reading or hearing different things, do you think that affects what your experience is like? Because everybody says different.
I think for me, I'm super highly curious. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of the other side. So it's partly good, but it's probably bad. Don't go investigating. I'm the person that walks towards the bad thing. But I think my curiosity has gotten me into places that maybe I probably shouldn't have gone, especially through like vision work and meditation and stuff like that. Because I'm not afraid of it, and I kind of want to poke at it and see what it does. So perhaps that's why I've had more negative experiences. Because when she said don't do it, I was like, why? Like, of course me. I'm like, well, now I have to go back and kind of see what that is. But I was surprised at the amount of people that have had that kind of experience, where it wasn't positive, where it didn't. But it could be, yes, it could be that the fear itself translates into something, because I noticed the people that I've talked to that have near-death experiences, where it's positive, is because they feel positively, and a lot of times they have spirituality on their side, so they have a really strong sense of spirituality, or they have a strong sense of where they're going after death, and so they don't fear it. Whereas maybe people that don't have that or are insecure about it, maybe they go to the darker places because they haven't transcended or they haven't come to terms with their own mortality. Question mark.
Anybody else have anything on that?
I almost flip it the other way around, where once you've experienced something like that, you start to look at the reports as far as, are you weeding out what you feel is relatively kind of like the experience is personal, but like rain is rain, no matter what. So that experience is going to be relatively the same. I mean, it's like a force of nature. I don't even know if I have the words to put it to make it where it's understandable what I'm trying to say. There should be a certain amount of consistency, I would think.
So, are you kind of saying that most experiences should be similar?
To a degree.
Should be, not are.
It's the same but tweaked personal to you.
Yeah.
And possibly based on what your background is, what your line of work is, what you're doing at the time. So that would affect, because it's you.
And it may be that whatever's at work on the other side is taking whatever is required to make you comfortable, or to get you through that situation.
I have a lot of clients. I'm a psychic medium, and so a lot of the people I work with on the other side, the stories are very similar. There are variants though. I think that that's with everybody else. It's kind of like there's different flavors of that. So I think that there is absolutely like a handful of different variants. I think that it's predominantly the same situation.
Okay, well, on the same area here, was brought up a minute ago, do you think, research indicates that very few people can control what's going on during an NDE. It's almost like, I'm not going to say predestined, but it's like if there's a path that they have to take from point one, which is the initiation of the incident, and then as they're progressing through until, I think you mentioned that you had a choice. You want to stay or you want to come back. That's when like you said, from what I've read, and from a couple of the interviews I've actually had with a couple of people, good friends and a family member who went through it, that they really didn't have a choice or any influence on the path until that point. So, thoughts on that?
I think that there's a bit of wiggle room with that in regards to, there's a clear path, but there absolutely is the tendency to, like for example, with mine, it was like I could see my family if I wanted to, and I did because I felt a little scared. But when you travel that path where you're going, it's almost as if you're being drawn like a magnet. And so that's what I've also heard from many spirits who it was very easy transitionally, in that regard as well. So I think that it is kind of like you have a bit of wiggle room in regards to what you do before you move to where you're going, but besides that, that's pretty much it.
With mine, it's, sometimes you're not allowed to go forward or told you have to go back. And that's basically what happened with mine. Said, you have to go back. And then I woke up.
So you didn't have any influence during that journey, however long it took, until that point of a decision. You go back or you don't go?
I was told I had to go back.
Okay.
I couldn't go forward. I had to go back.
Okay. And when I interviewed my uncle, who actually had about 4 or 5, he had a bad heart, when I was, I guess up until I was about 20-some years old, he would tell the story, and everyone was different, but he would get to a point, and I know at one point my grandmother, his mom, said, Hank, no, it's not your time. Go back. He had no decision, like you were just saying. He had to go back. A couple of times, he had the choice. He saw whatever he saw. I don't remember, it's been 40-some years ago. But I don't see any even research evidence that shows that you have, or very little anyway, that you have the capacity to make any decisions of how your journey is going to go until you get to that point of, you got to make a decision. Or as you said, or you're told you got to come back.
I was told that I had to come back, but also the other thing that was said to me is that I chose to help people, and I was 7, so I hadn't done that yet. So when you chose this, that was the other part of it.
So that was part of the decision-making process. Okay, anybody else, or should we move on? How are we doing? I think you guys are giving some great insights. What do you guys think? Oh, yes.
Did it change who you were and who you became when that happened?
It did. When I came back, when I was little, at that time, my father had left my family. My mother was very depressed and alcoholic, and I was ready to go when it happened. And so when I came back, I realized that, I'm not the most important person in this world, obviously. And I'm meant to help people understand what their value and what their importance is. So as a little kid, I didn't know that in terminology, but it definitely changed me in regards to I knew I was supposed to be here, and I've always had abilities to sense things, but it definitely gave me a bit more of a clarity in the end. So yes, it did change me, and I am loving what I'm doing now, and I help people. So I guess at the end of the day, I was meant to come back home.
Did it change you?
Well, I'm not proud to say I was not dealing drugs, but I was working on trafficking at 18. I've been in family business, or legitimate business since I was 9, so I was used to business, and I knew how to do it. And I did a 180 and went to security and law enforcement from that.
Does that answer your question? Okay, well, let's move on to the next question. And we've been touching on a lot of these. They all overlap, but on the screen here it says, during the crisis, do you believe that divine or other real intervention or some other intervention from whatever took place and why? Now, for me, I do believe that I had, as some of you mentioned, I do believe that I had a guardian angel's intervention. While sinking deeper, I did hear a voice tell me, go quickly to the bottom, drag him down, kick off the bottom like a frog as hard as you can. I did what I was told, just the voice. And like I said, it's still calm. I'm still calm, but I'm like, I'm gonna die. I was almost out of breath. So, but when I did, I went to the bottom, which was like only 2 more feet below my feet. So I crouched down, pushed up, brought my sisters underwater, kicked up as hard as I could. When I broke the surface, took my breath, I flung my arms out, threw my sisters away from me. There was always somebody there. My dad was there and some other guest was there. So they pulled my sisters out of the water. I was able to breathe, and even to this day, I don't think anybody ever realized how much peril I was really in, because they were all chatting around the pool, and my sisters, they were just making a racket. They're younger, I'm the oldest, and but I was fortunate enough to listen to that voice, do what I was told, and I'm here to talk about it today. So. Anybody else have anybody else want to add anything to that from their perspective?
Apparently I'm very chatty today. So I had an experience, and I don't know what to call it, but it was really amazing. So I was in California, and my best friend was actually out here in Oklahoma, and I was sleeping, and I had this dream that she was in a car accident. I heard the song Freebird playing, and in my dream, I pushed her back into her body. And when I woke up, I called her, and she sounded horrible. And I said, oh my gosh, you were in a car accident. And she goes, yeah, and you pushed me back in my body. And I said, you're not leaving me yet. So I think sometimes we can kind of step in and help people that we love. And we've been friends for 30 years. We've been roommates for about 20. So I'm actually still here.
Well, I totally believe my papa was there to save me many times. I'm pretty sure by now he was like, girl, just stop. But I'll wholeheartedly believe he was there. Even though I don't remember, but I do think that.
So you had assistance. I think that's what you were leaning towards a bit ago.
Yeah.
Anybody else involved? Well, Robert, you said you heard a voice.
Yeah, I definitely felt that there was something bigger than me that took over.
And I heard recently, somebody saying, it gave me a really good explanation. Sometimes we talk about the divine or the guardian angels or something other real like that. But one of my friends said, did you ever think put it in your higher self that actually is the voice that you heard. I said that's a really good explanation because we don't know what it is really. You know, and I'm not going into religion or anything like that, but it could be our higher selves, you know, our own spirit that's talking to us and sees the whole picture because, you know, we're focused, we can only see a certain range in our eyes or our hearing or feelings or whatever. But as a spirit, they can see everywhere, you know, 360 basically. So maybe it's our higher self that we were hearing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, my thoughts on guardian angels, my personal thoughts are past relatives keeping an eye on you. I never met my dad's father, and found out several years later during World War II, he worked in security in military plants. And I think it was him because he had passed away not long after I was born. I never met him. My dad wasn't personally, but I said I found out in the war he did do security in military plants, so he was law enforcement.
You really did influence you then too. Okay.
Now that I'm thinking on it, hindsight is everything. I did hear the voice. I didn't see anything, but that's kind of how things happen with me. I hear the voice. And I think, now looking back on it, I think, do you want to stay or do you want to go, is like, we're changing the timeline, so are you going to do this or not, kind of thing. Like, it was a decision that I had to make, because I had 2 miscarriages on the exact day, July 21st, a year apart. And then I got pregnant again that same week, a year later, and I had my son. But my life completely changed when I had my son. Like, I had to totally do a 180 of my life. I was 23 and I was going to be a journalist and travel the world, and you can't do that with a kid. And it was during that time that I decided that I was going to be psychic and that I was going to go this route. And then that's what that I put it away. And then when he got a little bit older, about 8, I started doing criminal investigating. And then on a whim, I decided, well, I was married at that time, and I decided to get a divorce and go to Tucson and become a psychic and write books. And that was 20 years ago. So if I had not said, yes, I want to come back, that would have been the end of my story, and I would not be doing what I'm doing now. So even though I didn't have the life review, I think it was more like, hey, do you want to do this or not? Are you gonna step up, or are you gonna be let go? Because we don't have any, we don't have anything else for you to do now. So step into your purpose or do something else. I think that was kind of the defining moment, even though at 22 it didn't really register. But you know, as we're talking about it, I'm realizing that was a very fixed point in my life. Because again, once I got pregnant, everything in my life changed. I had to make some serious changes. Like everybody on this, I guess this is the bad side of the table, because I was doing drugs. I was super alcoholic at the time. I was going down a path that was not good. So it was kind of like that wake up moment. You should probably do something different now.
Yeah.
I will say that when I did have my near-death experience when I was 7, the woman that met me on the other side of the bridge, she looked very familiar. Like maybe she could have been my higher self, or maybe a spirit guide. I don't know, but she felt like home. That's what I felt.
Okay, well, these last couple of comments kind of was a great segue into the next question. So the question actually is, how did the MDE affect your view of life? And did life become better or worse? For me, even though I did not see, heaven or angels or anything fantastic like that, with the experience, I did realize that there's more to life than just my current existence. So at that time, I was 14 years old, sophomore in high school. I began to question religion and started leaning more towards spirituality as opposed to religion. Turned out that was a really difficult time for me because I was a high school seminarian studying to become a priest. And it was still an option, priesthood was still an option for me, but from that point on, that idea began melting away, and I just didn't really pursue it anymore. I ended up having probably 2.5 years worth of conversations with my parish priest, who I was good friends with, and he kept me on track, so I didn't fail, all my classes because of my change in thought process on the whole situation. I did learn a lot from him, and I do thank him for his guidance and his patience with me. So I think, yes, my experience did change me, and I think it was for the better. I have a very high appreciation because my background is a religious background, but again, I'm focused more on the spirituality side, or spiritual side now. So what about thoughts on that?
I learned, for me, I learned that death isn't the end, it's the beginning. And that changes happen, that I guess I would say I learned not to be afraid of the unseen and the negative, the scary. And that death is something that is a process. We're born and we pass eventually. And so it's a cycle, not so much a big scary thing. I also learned from a very young age to listen to myself and other beings around me, which got me in a lot of trouble in school. That's a story for another day. But I did learn to listen and understand that what changed me was that I could listen to things that can help me in my life, but also to not let fear rule my life at all, and to be strong to live in that understanding.
Anybody else on the other side of the table?
I know in mine, my parents and my grandparents and everything said that after my incident, I changed totally as a person. I became very independent, didn't want anybody's help, wasn't into going out and playing anymore, became very inclusive.
Well, I don't drink and drive, so that's a good thing. But yes. But I also started going to church religiously. I started going every Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday morning, Sunday evening. I did do a deep dive into religion because of what happened. I may not do a lot of religious stuff now, but I do believe there's a higher being out there, and I do believe that something was watching me, whether it was my papa or a guardian angel or whatever. But there's just been too many incidences in my life where I should not be here because I was stupid, and I'm still here. So it changed my life for the better, being able to be more disciplined in what I do, when I go out, so yeah, it totally changed my life. Instead of being this crazy, wild teenager, I went towards being safer.
Less crazy.
Yeah, more cautious.
For me, I'm a sensitive, able to pick up things, and I always have been. That taught me in tuned me in better to read people's character and go with your gut feeling and listening to the gut feeling, and it's saved me several times, especially with the law enforcement, the gut feelings and believing in them and listening to them, paying attention to it.
Anybody else?
I guess kind of the feeling, you're here for a reason. You got to be here for a reason. And it was right. I mean, why I'm here. Went on to meet my wife, have kids, have grandkids, and things like that. Had I given up, none of that would have happened. So, keep in mind that there's a reason you're here.
That's a good point. Okay, shall we move on? Okay. We just touched on some of this question here also is, do you think the NDE experience can enhance or generate what I call spiritual gifts? Thinking back, I did know that the event had changed me back when I was 14, but I didn't know why or how. I mean, during that time frame, I had more important things to think about, like school, playing, sports, having fun. Didn't think about any of that stuff. But about the last 20 years or so, since I've been doing paranormal investigating or ghost hunting and research, well, it opened my eyes to new worlds and opportunities. So meditation, which I do occasionally, should do it more, but I don't. Personal reflection. To me, it proved that I do have some spiritual gifts, and that I have been told, a voice again, that my gifts are healing, gifts of healing, not physical, but mental and spiritual. So that's what I focus on. So I don't think the event generated those gifts, but I think it opened my mind to more possibilities, and fantastic possibilities. So what's your opinion on that one? Anybody?
I'd agree with you. Same thing. Exactly the same thing. I mean, I've always had an interest ever since I can remember in things that are strange and weird, and paranormal, the supernatural, religious, all of that. And I think it just kind of lit a fire under me a little bit at that point. Maybe a slow burn, but it was fire to continue on that process. And maybe kind of woke up something that, like you talked about being sensitive, to really start to pay attention to that sensitivity that you're feeling that maybe you kind of blocked out before.
Kind of teach you to how to fine tune it.
Yeah.
A way to fine tune it and to build a progression there.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of agree. I think we're all born with the gifts, with the gifts of intuition and stuff like this, but it's what do you do with it? Do you ignore it or do you embrace it? I think I think that experience that I had opened my eyes and got me even more to embrace it again after my sports days were over. So yeah.
I think that intuition is like a muscle, and if you use it, if you flex it, if you learn how to work with it, whether it's like doing certain, it's like you have a deck of cards and you're like, okay, is it red or black? Or if you do different things that are enabling you to kind of test yourself. Everybody has intuition. Everybody has the abilities to learn that. It's just a matter of remembering how to do that muscle memory where you can tap into it.
Okay. Well, let's move on. A little different angle here. Next question is, do you think NDE consciousness exists independently of the brain, or might it actually be a result from activation of a hidden area within the brain that scientists haven't found yet? So current conventional research indicates that they are independent results of human experience. It's not 100%, but a very high percentage of the cases. But scientists are also exploring other areas, and they've been doing research since the early 70s, I believe, serious research. So for me, based on many of my crazy and fun conversations that I do have with spirits at different locations, matter of fact, I have a whole lecture I give just called Fun with Spirits. I do believe that consciousness, me personally, can exist independently from the body. What are your opinions?
I do think that is true. I think that with the subconscious and the conscious mind, it can kind of work in tandem. It can also work outside of it as such. So I think that it's definitely both. And because we don't know still as much as we could about the brain and how it processes, that there's a lot of different avenues that we could actually have this understanding for it. So it could do both, I think.
So I always go back to the studies on astronauts, because when they go into, what is it, the G-force, or whatever it's called, when they did, what are those things called where they spin, and they teach them how to do G-force?
Centrifugal force.
There you go, yeah. So when astronauts and plane people, jet fighters, thank you, word salad. And I do a podcast, it's crazy. Anyway, they've done studies on them, and when they go into a certain G-force, I think it's 4 or 5, they do have near-death experiences, they do see the light, and they do go into that. And so they train mostly astronauts to not go there, or to come out of it. And the jet fighters, oh my gosh. But one of the training things is they train them to not go to the light, to come out of it, because you'll pass out. And then they have those leg compression things that they use, and you have to learn how to push the button. But a lot of them have said, yeah, I saw the light, I saw something. And so there was a lot of research that was done that I was going on a rabbit hole about how much of it is chemicals in your brain. Because you're going into like a fight or flight, and you think you're going to die, so you have the experience. And that got me all tripped up, because I was like, is this a spiritual experience, or is this just part of dying? Is this part of your body preparing you so you don't forget, right? So that has always confused me. The other part of it too is that, studying mediumship, scientists do think that your consciousness is non-local, what they call it, because it's somewhere else, but we don't know where it is, and that's the whole idea, like we're in the matrix, is because how much of our experiences are literally just universal consciousness, or we're all picking up on each other through the net, but and then that goes in, I rabbit hole way too much, but that goes into the idea, like we were talking about, like everybody has these common experiences with near-death experiences, right? But how much of that is just thought forms, egregores? It's just what we have created and what we have chose to experience. So then I have an existential crisis, and everything moves along. But that's kind of where I'm with it. I don't know. And the more that I do this work, and the more that I investigate, and even with mediumship, when I do mediumship readings, I never know if I'm picking up on the person and their memories of that person, or if I'm picking up on the person themselves. Am I tapping into their consciousness, or am I tapping into your consciousness, your memories of that person? Because both are equally as important, right? But where is it coming from? I don't know. I know that it's coming from somewhere else, though. I know that when I do those kinds of readings, I'm looking at you, but I'm thinking out here somewhere. I'm picking up on something. But yeah, okay. I hope that makes sense. I just meandered, but yeah.
Yeah, I think from your examples, what was going through my mind when you were talking about that, with the jet fighters and the astronauts and the centrifugal force machine or whatever, when they reach a certain, if it's too high, the G-force, they actually do pass out.
Yeah.
But the brains are still functioning. So I would think, this is my thinking, that those individuals, when they start seeing the light or different strange things, phenomena, that they're going through hallucinatory, or whatever the word is, they're having hallucinations. And it could be because the brain can't function that fast, and that they're just, as we mentioned earlier, for the scientific approach, it could just be misfirings of the neurotransmitters, as you said, a chemical force, or whatever you want to call that, that's affecting them. So it's possible.
Yeah.
So.
Going off of what she was talking about, the reason they have the leg compression is because it forces the blood flow out of the brain, which triggers fight or flight. And considering we use less than 25% of our brain, who knows what's being affected by that and what's kicking in that we normally don't have or use.
Okay. These are all great answers, guys. I mean, nobody knows the answer. So these are great opinions, and it's what we believe, each of us believe, because again, all these experiences are going to be personal experiences. We've kind of already talked about this one. The next question was, do you think experiences relate directly with a person's current mindset and situation at the time of an NDE onset? I think we've kind of said, most probably it does have some kind of an influence. Anybody want to add to that? Because we've already talked about it. Okay. Next question then is, I'm going to sneak a little bit into the two topics I was not going to talk about. But do you think NDEs are true glimpses into life after life, or do you think it's a result of something still hidden within a dying brain? We kind of touched on that a little bit too, but anybody want to add anything to that one?
I don't think that they're related. I think that life after life things are, this is just my feeling with what I've worked with clients, is that it's more than likely the tandem. They work together, but not in the same direction. They kind of branch off of each other, but maybe not the right direction. It kind of trickles into two different avenues. At least that's my experience.
Okay, well, I think we've got about another minute. I know we didn't get to a lot of questions from the audience, but please come see any of us today, anytime today. If you've got a question about the topic or anything you want to share, please do so. And panel, thank you for opening up. I know it's a difficult topic for many people, and for those who did participate, thank you so much. So let's give them a hand.
All right, thank you to Kim Rahmoeller and our panel. Give them a little round of applause again. Check back in. All of these people you're going to see again throughout the day up on panels and giving presentations, and of course they'll be around the building. So if you want to ask them any questions or chat with them, catch them around. They'll be there. We're going to take a really quick little 10-minute break. Go ahead and get yourselves some snacks.